The role of community partners. My freshman year was the year the Center of Community Engagement was born. I remember that day distinctly because they had purple and white balloons throughout the campus center. It was actually kind of weird walking into the CC for the first time because it was the same space that used to be the game room, which I spent a lot of time in during my pre-fresh weekend. And even though I was first year, I was somewhat familiar with the community engagement culture of the college because I went on the first year orientation trip. And during this trip, I was first introduced to the idea of a partnership between a college and community engagement. Up until then, all my community engagement activities were kept separate from my academics, not by choice, but because that's the way things were in my high school. I was involved in an arts program that painted murals in heavily graffitied schools. The program was kind of new, so a lot of my time was spent on calling schools and trying to get a hold of their administrators to ask if they would like us to paint a mural in one of their walls. I was surprised by how many no's I got. They either thought we were charging a fee or didn't want to go through the paperwork, so declined the offer. Once we did a couple of schools, though, the ball started rolling and it became much easier. I soon discovered that the amount of resources available to the mural painting program expanded exponentially after we started making agreements with schools. The most valuable resource to us was volunteers, and the schools really helped getting the word out. The mural program expanded, and we were able to do a lot of good. The prospect of having my community service activities more closely associated with my college was a relief when I got here. In the corporate world, partnerships are when two businesses agree to share each other's resources in hopes to gain a profit. That's pretty similar to what community partnership is. In the mural program, I learned how to organize and lead volunteers on mural projects, and in return, they got a pretty cool mural. At Amherst, this mutual relationship reaps even greater rewards because there are more resources invested. And not just monetary ones, but also, and perhaps more importantly, the resource of quality volunteers. This college has so many bright minds that can and have contributed to the causes of nonprofit organizations around the greater Amherst area. The partnerships serve as means of funneling these bright minds in an organized fashion into specific causes that reap greater results. And as I've alluded to earlier, students can learn a lot from participating from these programs. I know firsthand from my participation in El Arcoiris, an after-school program in Holyoke. I discovered ARCO during the community engagement trip, soon joined my freshman year, and have been involved since. I was initially attracted to ARCO because it was similar to the kinds of programs I took advantage of growing up in Los Angeles. I owe a debt of gratitude to such programs because I don't believe I would have ended up at Amherst if it weren't for exposure to good role models that programs like ARCO offers. When I started ARCO, I knew that the work I was doing was making a difference. And I thought a lot of it came from the tutoring aspect. I've come to realize, though, that while my tutoring is important and helps the kids, it's really the role model aspect that will end up making the greater change in these kids' lives. When I look back on the programs I took advantage of growing up, I don't really think about the fact that I finally understood three-digit division. Rather, I think about my tutor, Josue, and how cool he seemed. And he knew division, so I should know it too. Indeed, what I remember and have grown to appreciate over the years is how Josue was often there, his consistency. It's amazing that something like showing up to a program can make such an impact to a kid. The tutors get a lot of ARCO as well. The most obvious being experience with teaching and developing patients. And in addition, although Amherst students come from a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds, these differences are masked when we come to Amherst. After all, for the most part, we all eat the same food, live in the same area, and utilize the same resources like the library, professors, etc. But when we get on that Amherst van and drive to Arco, we're exposed to a world very different from Amherst. The difference is captured well by the bridge over the Connecticut River that connects Holyoke and South Hadley. If you've crossed that bridge, you can see the difference, manifested through the quality of buildings and streets. It's really night and day. For some of us, El Arco is a familiar world. For others, it's a shocking reality check. But no matter our background, we're reminded of the inequality of distribution of resources in the world. And this is important if we are to graduate from this institution and make a difference. Amherst partnerships with programs such as El Arcoiris brings together a variety of students and funnels them into a common purpose. Students have the opportunity to learn from each other as well as learn from the program. But perhaps the biggest advantage to partnerships in community engagement at Amherst is the fact that when students join partnerships, they also join a culture that we all have a say in and help develop. By virtue of participating in programs, going to meetings, and talking to friends about our experiences, we promote the idea that community engagement is important to Amherst students. And soon, I hope, not only important, but the norm. Thank you.